Madam Speaker, the Constitution specifically empowers Congress with the responsibility to declare war. And for more than 4 years, there has been a Saudi-led, U.S.-supported conflict happening in Yemen that is a war by any logical definition. Nearly all of the bombs that have fallen say the same thing: made in the United States of America. They fall on weddings, they fall on hospitals and on homes. They fall on funerals, refugee camps, and school buses. It is an aerial bombing campaign that hammers children, families, and civilian neighborhoods every single day. The U.S. military has supported this reign of terror with logistics, intelligence, ground support, mid-air refueling of bombers, and the sale of bombs and munitions dropped on Yemen. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project estimates that more than 60,000 civilians and combatants have been killed in Yemen over the last 2 years. This total is increasing by more than 2,000 people every single month. 85,000 children under the age of 5 have died from hunger and disease. 18 million people there are food insecure. 75% of Yemen's population is in need of humanitarian assistance. The United Nations has said Yemen is suffering from the fastest growing cholera epidemic ever recorded, as well as the world's biggest food emergency. These are not abstract numbers. These are human lives. Tens of thousands of children lost. Given all of this, Americans would be forgiven for believing that Congress actually declared our involvement in this war. But we have not. We abdicated our responsibility to the executive branch instead, across multiple presidents, Democratic and Republican alike. Some may dance around this fact by calling what's happening there a conflict. But let's call it what it is. It's a war. And our involvement in this war is unconstitutional. Despite being one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, others, like the President, don't mention Yemen at all. In his State of the Union address last week, President Trump, right here in this chamber, discussed his ineffective wall with Mexico, encouraged Congress to stop upholding our oversight responsibilities over his administration, and highlighted how Americans will once again be sent into space. It was the longest State of the Union address in nearly 20 years. But the President didn't utter the word Yemen, not once. He couldn't even spare 2 minutes to update this Congress and the American people on our involvement there. Are you kidding me? The President may not want to talk about it, but a free press has been delivering the grisly details day after day, in spite of the roadblocks the Saudis have thrown up to limit media access to Yemen. Perhaps none spoke more vocally than the late Saudi dissident and Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi. He called for an end to this conflict in a column titled, and I quote, "Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince must restore dignity to his country by ending Yemen's cruel war," end quote. That was published in the Washington Post just weeks before his death. But let's be honest, what happened to Jamal Khashoggi was a murder. All evidence makes it clear that it was likely at the behest of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. A recent New York Times article even revealed that American intelligence agencies intercepted a conversation where bin Salman threatened to use a bullet on Mr. Khashoggi if he didn't end his criticism of Saudi Arabia in this conflict. Madam Speaker, is this really the kind of regime Congress wants as our nation's partner? There was even a report that Saudis and the UAE are transferring American-made weapons to al-Qaeda fighters and other rebels. This would expose sensitive national security technology that could endanger the lives of our military. President Trump has said of Saudi Arabia, and I quote, "They have been a great ally," end quote. Really? Really? This is a country that's responsible for killing and dismembering a Washington Post reporter. Madam Speaker, if this is what the President considers a friend, then I'd hate to see what he considers a foe. Even Republicans are angry with this administration's apparent affinity towards Saudi Arabia. Politico reported, and I quote, "Senate Republicans are fuming at President Donald Trump for telling lawmakers that he would disregard a law requiring a report to Congress determining who was responsible for the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, end quote. No member of Congress should be okay with a president showing such disregard for the laws that we pass. And we certainly shouldn't look the other way when it comes to the murder of a resident of the United States. I say to all my friends on the other side of the aisle, if you want to send a message that United States foreign policy respects human rights, join with us on this resolution. Prior Republican Congresses have used every legislative trick in the book to prevent this debate. They even took the unprecedented step of stripping war powers resolutions related to our involvement in Yemen of their privileged status, not once, but twice. These tactics may have delayed us, but they did not deter us. Speaker Boehner may have been content ceding our constitutional duties to the executive branch. Speaker Ryan may also have been happy to do so. Thankfully, Speaker Pelosi is not. She is empowering this Congress to do its job. And I'm glad that under her leadership, this Congress has strengthened its political will and is reasserting our Article I constitutional responsibilities. This is the system our founders intended, and it is what our constituents expect of all of us. This Congress is not turning a blind eye to U.S. involvement in Yemen. This Congress is not looking away from the civil war the world sees unfolding on its television screens. I want to thank the Congressional Progressive Caucus and especially Congressman Khanna for leading this matter. Congressman Khanna has been the conscience of Congress when it comes to our involvement in Yemen. He has pushed us again and again and again to do something as these atrocities mount. We not only have a constitutional responsibility to pass the underlying resolution, we have a moral responsibility. No Congress should be complicit in the bombing of children or the bombing of water treatment plants during a cholera outbreak, or the decimation of hospitals during a humanitarian catastrophe, or the creation of a blockade that leads thousands of people to die by starvation. Considering this measure in the opening weeks of this Congress represents a clear break from the old ways of doing business, where matters of war and peace were routinely swept under the rug. I'm proud that this is a structured rule that makes in order a bipartisan amendment and a minority amendment. The bipartisan amendment is mine, and among other things, it says that nothing in this resolution may be considered as authorizing the use of military force, and nothing may alter the 2001 AUMF. Because as important as this measure is, it is also targeted specifically to our involvement only in and affecting the war in Yemen. It's something Republicans and Democrats agree on. Members ranging from conservative Republican Tom Massey to progressive Congresswoman Barbara Lee have signed on as co-sponsors. It should not be controversial. Madam Speaker, there is bipartisan agreement that the United States' involvement in Yemen needs to end. So I urge all of my colleagues to seize this opportunity that we have fought for so long. Vote yes on this rule and the underlying bill. Let's finally end our nation's complicity in the greatest humanitarian crisis taking place on our planet today. And I reserve the balance of my time.